I went to my vacation house and found my sister and her husband's family living there like it was theirs. She even threatened to call the police, so I told her to go ahead and watched her world collapse. The drive up to Copper Ridge had always been my therapy. 3 hours of winding mountain roads, pine trees thick enough to block out the world, and silence so complete you could hear your own thoughts settle. I bought the lodge 6 years ago with my first big bonus from the tech startup, back when everyone said I was crazy for investing in some cabin in the woods instead of a condo in the city. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I navigated the final turn onto the private road. October had painted the aspens gold, and the afternoon sun cut through the branches in dusty beams. I'd been planning this weekend for months, a full digital detox, no laptop, just me in the mountains, and maybe finally some clarity about whether to take the VP position that had been offered. The first sign something was wrong came when I spotted tire tracks in the gravel. Fresh ones, multiple vehicles. My heart kicked up its pace as the lodge came into view through the trees. There were 3 cars parked in the clearing, a silver SUV I didn't recognize, a blue sedan, and my sister Vanessa's white Range Rover, the one our parents had helped her buy 2 years ago after she begged and cried about needing reliable transportation for her kids. Smoke curled from the chimney. Every light in the place blazed, even though it was only 4 in the afternoon. I pulled up slowly, my mind racing through possibilities. Had I somehow double-booked? No. I built the booking system myself. Emergency, but nobody had called. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts, just the usual work emails and a notification from my Ring doorbell at my apartment in Denver. The moment I stepped out of my Subaru, I heard laughter, children's voices, high and excited. The smell of something cooking, barbecue maybe? I walked up the stone path I'd laid myself 3 summers ago, each step feeling surreal. Through the large windows, I could see people moving around. My people in my space. I didn't knock. It was my house. The front door swung open, and the scene that greeted me belonged in some alternate universe. The living room was trashed, not dirty exactly, but lived in. Toys scattered across my Persian rug, empty soda cans on the coffee table I'd restored. Someone had moved my reading chair to make room for a massive flat-screen TV that definitely hadn't been there during my last visit in August. 3 kids I recognized as Vanessa's were sprawled on the floor playing video games. Her husband, Derek, sat on my leather couch, beer in hand, feet up on my ottoman. An older couple I assumed were Derek's parents occupied my dining table playing cards. Vanessa emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron. My apron, the one that said head chef, that my best friend Madison had given me as a housewarming gift. She froze when she saw me. For one beautiful second, I watched the color drain from her face. Then her expression hardened into something ugly. "What do you want, parasite?" She actually sneered. "I'll call the police." The words hit me like ice water. Parasite. The same word she'd been using since we were kids. Usually when I'd achieved something she hadn't. When I got in the lead in the school play. When I graduated valedictorian. When I'd landed my first real job. Something clicked into place inside me, cold and clear. "Go ahead if you can," I said, keeping my voice level. Then I walked straight past her into the living room. Derek scrambled to his feet, nearly dropping his beer. His parents looked up from their cards confused. The kids paused their game. "Claire, you can't just," Vanessa started. "Can't just what?" I turned to face her. "Walk into my own house." "Your house." Derek's voice cracked slightly. Van said, "This place belonged to your family, that she inherited her half." I almost laughed. Almost. Did she? Now I pulled out my phone and opened the Photos app. I'd learned to document everything years ago after Vanessa had tried to claim I'd stolen Mom's pearl necklace that Mom had actually given me directly. Funny because here's the deed. See Claire Elizabeth Morrison, sole owner, purchase, May 2019. I held the phone up, letting them all see. I'd taken pictures of every important document before going paperless. The silence was exquisite. "That's not," she said. Derek's mother, a pinched woman with too much hairspray, looked at Vanessa. Vanessa's face had gone from pale to blotchy red. "She's lying. Claire always lies. She manipulates everyone." "Call the county recorder's office," I said pleasantly. "They're open until 5. The property is listed under Morris and Claire E. parcel number 4472B. Would you like me to give you the phone number? Derek pulled out his own phone. The kids had stopped pretending to play and were watching with a fascinated horror, children reserved for adult drama. Derek said slowly, "You told me your parents left you both this property. They would have." Vanessa snapped if she hadn't manipulated them. She always does this, swoops in and steals everything. The accusation was so absurd. I actually did laugh. I bought this property with my own money. Mom and Dad didn't leave us anything because they're still alive enjoying their retirement in Arizona. Should I call them? Put them on speaker? You're such a fuss, Vanessa hissed. I prefer property owner. I looked around at the destruction of my peaceful space. How long have you been here? Nobody answered. I walked to the kitchen, Vanessa trailing behind me, sputtering protests. The refrigerator was full of groceries. The pantry I'd stocked with my favorite coffee and imported pasta had been raided and refilled with generic brands and kids' snacks. The bag of premium coffee beans I'd left nearly full last time was completely gone. Someone had used my expensive olive oil to fry something, if the crusty pan on the stove was any indication. The espresso machine I'd saved for months to buy had a coating of dried milk on the steam wand. 3 weeks, Derek admitted from behind me. He followed us in. Van said we could stay here while our house was being renovated. She said, "You never came up here anyway?" 3 weeks. I turned to face my sister. You've been squatting in my house for 3 weeks. It's not squatting if it's family, she shot back. It's breaking and entering, trespassing, theft of utilities. I kept my voice calm, but inside rage was building like a storm. This wasn't just about the house. This was about every time she'd taken credit for my work in group projects. Every time she borrowed my clothes and returned them ruined. Every time she told our parents I was being selfish when I wouldn't hand over my things. This was about the time she'd called me selfish for not loaning her $5,000 after I just bought my first car, scraped together from 3 years of saving from my part-time jobs. She told everyone I was greedy, that family should help family. This was about high school when she told everyone I cheated to get my SAT scores. About college when she called my partial scholarship unfair because she hadn't gotten one. About last Christmas when she'd announced to the entire family that I was cold and unloving because I'd set a boundary about her kids destroying my apartment. Claire, come on? Derek tried for a reasonable tone. Van made a mistake, but we can work this out. We're family. Family pays rent, family asks permission. Family doesn't call family parasites. Vanessa crossed her arms. I'm not leaving. You can't make me. This is where she'd always went before. The tantrums, the tears, the way she'd spin the story to make me the villain, and herself the victim. Our parents would inevitably beg me to back down, to be the bigger person, to let it go, because that's just how Vanessa is. But I was done being the bigger person. Derek, I said, turning to him, do you have a rental agreement? Any written permission to be here? His silence was answer enough. And you've been here 3 weeks, meaning you've been using my electricity, my water, my gas for the fireplace and heat. You've been consuming food that I paid for. I gestured at the nearly empty bag of coffee beans on the counter. The good stuff from that roster in Denver. You've been sleeping in beds with linens I bought. We can pay you back, Derek said quickly. At fair market rate, this area rents for about $400 a night during peak fall season. 3 weeks is 21 days. That's $8,400 plus utilities, plus the food you consumed, plus cleaning fees, because I guarantee you haven't been maintaining this place to my standards. The number hung in the air. Derek's face went gray. You can't charge us like a hotel, Vanessa sputtered. That's insane. You're right. I should charge you more. Hotels don't let you move in furniture without permission. I pointed at the TV. Where did that come from? That's ours, Derek said. We brought it from home. Did you drill into my wall to mount it? The whole riddled wall behind the TV answered for him. That's property damage. I'll need to repair and repaint. Add another $500. This is ridiculous, Vanessa said. I'm your sister. Then you should have asked your sister before moving into her house. I pulled up my contacts. I'm going to give you one chance. You pack up everything you leave today, and you pay me for the utilities and food. Call it an even $3,000. I'll eat the cost of the rental value and the repairs because you're right. We're family. $3,000. Derek looked like he might pass out. We don't have that kind of money. That's why we're here. The renovation went over budget. Why didn't you stay with your parents? I asked, looking at the older couple who had crept to the kitchen doorway. Their place is too small, Derek's mother said stiffly. But my place is just fine to come and dear without asking. Vanessa said you wouldn't mind, she insisted. Vanessa lied. I looked at my sister again. That's when Vanessa did what she always did. Her eyes welled with tears. Her lip trembled. You've always hated me. Ever since we were kids, you've always had to be better than me, smarter than me, and now you're using this house to hurt me. The performance was Oscar-worthy. I'd seen it 100 times. I don't hate you, Van, but I'm done enabling you. I held up my phone. $30,000 or I call the sheriff. You wouldn't, but I could see the doubt creeping in. Test me. We stared at each other. Years of history crashed between us. Every fight, every betrayal, every time I'd swallowed my anger to keep the peace. Our parents' voices echoed in my memory. Just let her have it, Claire. You know how she gets. Be the mature one. Call them, Derek's father said suddenly. Call the police. Well, tell them she gave us permission. Really, I pulled up my email on my phone because I have an email thread with the property management company confirming that no one and I, quote, no individuals besides Ms. Morrison are authorized to access the property until further notice. That's dated from last month when I had them come do a maintenance check. I also have security camera footage. That was a bluff. I didn't have cameras up here, but they didn't know that. Derek's father's face hardened. Derek, go start packing. Dad, now the older man, looked at me with something like respect. My son married a liar. We're not going to make it worse by adding fraud to the list. Vanessa whirled on him. How dare you? How dare I? He stepped forward. We sold our truck to help pay for your renovation. You said you had this place lined up, that it was all arranged. My wife and I have been uncomfortable for 3 weeks wondering when the real owner would show up, and you kept saying it was fine. You made us accomplices. I didn't make you do anything, Vanessa said, but her voice was shrill now. Unbelievable. Derek was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Claire, I'm sorry. I genuinely thought Van showed me pictures and said this was the family lodge. It is, Vanessa insisted. It should be. I'm family too. Why does she get everything? I bought it. I said slowly, like explaining to a child. With money I earned. You want a mountain house? Buy one. With what money? Some of us have real responsibilities. Kids, a family. We can't all be selfish career women who finish that sentence, I said quietly. Please. She didn't. Even Vanessa knew when she'd gone too far. You have 2 hours, I said. I'm going to drive into town, get dinner, and when I come back, this place better be empty and clean, dishes washed, floors swept, garbage taken out. I want every trace of you gone, and the money, Derek asked weakly. You have 1 week to send me $3,000. After that, I'm adding interest, and if I find anything broken or missing, I'm taking it to small claims court. I started to walk out, then paused. Oh, and bam, change your locks at home because I'm betting I know how you got in here. Her face confirmed it. She'd made a copy of my emergency key, the one I'd foolishly given her years ago just in case. I'll be back at 7, I said. Don't be here. I walked out to a chorus of arguing voices, Derek and his parents rounding on Vanessa, the kids crying, chaos erupting. The October air hit me like a blessing as I closed the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I got into my car. Adrenaline, anger, and something else. Liberation, maybe? I'd actually done it. I'd stood my ground. I hadn't caved. I drove down the mountain to Pine Creek, the little town 15 minutes away. Found a diner called Rosie's and ordered a burger and fries I was too wound up to eat. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, asked if I was okay. Family drama, I said. She nodded knowingly. The worst kind. You need pie. Pie helps. I accepted the apple pie. She was right. It did help. By the time I drove back up at 7:30, the clearing was empty. All 3 vehicles were gone. I sat in my car for a long moment, almost afraid of what I'd find inside. The house was cleaner than I'd expected. They'd done the dishes, swept the floors, even taken out the garbage. The TV was gone, leaving those damn holes in the wall, but someone, Derek, probably had left a note on the kitchen counter. Claire? I'm sorry, I really didn't know. I'll send the money. Van and I have a lot to discuss. Derek. No note from Vanessa, of course not. I walked through the house, checking everything. They'd stripped the beds and left the linens in the washing machine. At least they'd had that much decency. The bathroom showed signs of kid use, toothpaste on the mirror, water splashed everywhere. The master bedroom was the worst. Someone had gone through my closet. The clothes I kept up here were pushed aside, and unfamiliar items had been hanging in their place. Vanessa's clothes. She'd actually moved her wardrobe into my bedroom. The dresser drawers held her underwear, her socks, her toiletries spread across my bathroom counter. The entitlement that it staggered me. This wasn't just using the house. She'd fully moved in as if she'd finally gotten what she'd always wanted to be, me to have my things to occupy my life. I found more evidence of their extended stay. As I continued my inspection, the second bedroom had been converted into a kid's room complete with toys and books I'd never seen before. They brought a portable crib. There were city cups in the kitchen cabinets arranged next to my wine glasses, like they belonged there. In the office, my sacred workspace where I had taken countless conference calls with mountain views as my backdrop. Someone had set up a gaming station. Derek's, probably the desk I custom ordered from a craftsman in Boulder, had been shoved against the wall to make room for a gaming chair and console setup. They hadn't just borrowed my house. They colonized it. I started documenting everything with photos. Every moved piece of furniture, every addition, every sign of their occupation. My lawyer brain kicked in. The one I developed from years of protecting myself against Vanessa's accusations and distortions. Evidence. Always gather evidence. As I photographed the gaming setup, my phone rang. Unknown number with a local area code. Hello, Ms. Morrison. This is Deputy Chen with the Summit County Sheriff's Office. We received a call about a property dispute at this address. My heart sank. Vanessa had actually called the police. After everything, she'd still tried to play victim. Deputy, I'm the property owner. I have documentation if you'd like to come by and verify. That won't be necessary. We pulled the property records when the call came in. The caller, A. Vanessa Patterson, claimed you were trespassing on family property. When we informed her that you're the sole owner on record, she became, let's say, uncooperative. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. What happened? She insisted we arrest you for harassment. When my colleague explained that asking someone to leave your own property isn't harassment, she demanded to speak to our supervisor. Then she claimed you'd stolen the property through fraud. He paused. Ma'am, is your sister always like this? Unfortunately, yes. Well, she's been warned that filing false police reports is a crime. I'm calling as a courtesy to let you know the situation's been handled. We have your complaint about unauthorized occupancy on file if you need it for civil proceedings. Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate it. For what it's worth, he added, I grew up with a brother like that. Cut him off 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made. After we hung up, I sat on the porch steps watching the sunset behind the mountains. The air had that crisp bite that promised frost overnight. An elk bugled somewhere in the distance, the sound echoing across the valley. This place had been my dream, realized. Growing up, our family had never had money for vacations. While Vanessa had resented our modest lifestyle, I'd worked 3 jobs through college, lived with roommates for years after graduation, and poured every spare dollar into savings. When the tech startup I joined early went public, my stock options had finally given me the cushion to buy something purely for joy. I'd looked at dozens of properties before finding this one. The lodge had been a foreclosure, neglected and sad with water damage and outdated everything, but the bones were good and the location was perfect, remote enough for privacy, close enough to town for convenience. I'd spent 2 years renovating it myself mostly. I'd learned to tile, to install light fixtures, to refinish hardwood floors. Every weekend I could spare. I'd driven up from Denver with supplies and determination. My friends had helped. Madison had painted every bedroom. My colleague Aaron had helped me build the deck. My old college roommate Jessica had sewn the curtains. This place represented everything I'd accomplished on my own. Every plank of the deck, every coat of paint, every carefully chosen piece of furniture, and Vanessa had tried to take it, but it was mine again. My space, my sanctuary. I built a fire and sat in my reading chair, watching the flames dance. My phone buzzed around 9. My mother, Claire. Honey, Vanessa just called me, very upset. She says you kicked her out of the family lodge. Here we go. There is no family lodge. Mom, there's my lodge that I bought with my money that Vanessa broke into without permission. Broke into. She said you gave her a key. I gave her an emergency key years ago. This wasn't an emergency. This was her lying to her husband and his parents, telling them the property was partly hers, and squatting for 3 weeks without asking me. Silence, then 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Mom. Using my utilities, my supplies, drilling holes in my walls. She didn't tell me that part. Mom's voice had shifted. She said you showed up unexpectedly and lost your temper. Did she mention calling me a parasite? A longer silence. Oh, Claire. Yeah. Your father and I will talk to her. This isn't okay. I know it's not okay. I'm tired of being told to let things go because that's just how Vanessa is. She needs to face consequences for once. You're right. Mom sighed. I'm sorry. We haven't been fair to you. We always asked you to be the understanding one because you're more capable of handling things, and that's not right either. The acknowledgement, unexpected and unqualified, made my throat tight. Thanks, Mom. Did you really charge her $3,000? Fair market value would be $8,000 plus damages. I gave her a family discount. Mom actually laughed. Good for you, honey. Good for you. We talked for another 20 minutes. She promised to stop making excuses for Vanessa to have a serious conversation with her about boundaries and respect. I didn't know if it would stick, but it felt like a start. After we hung up, I opened my laptop so much for a digital detox and ordered security cameras, real ones. This time I'd have them installed before I left. I also called the locksmith who serviced the area and scheduled a full rekey for Monday morning. Over the next few days, I patched and repainted the wall color, matching the exact shade of cream I'd chosen when I first decorated. I deep cleaned the espresso machine until it purred. I replaced my coffee beans with an even better blend. I hung my photographs back on the walls where they'd been moved to make room for the TV mount. On Sunday morning, I drove into Pine Creek for supplies and ran into someone I hadn't expected, Derek's mother, Joan, coming out of the grocery store. She stopped when she saw me, her expression unreadable. Claire. She shifted her bags. I owe you an apology. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She gestured to her car. Let me put these away. Can we talk for a minute? We sat on a bench outside the store watching tourists browse the antique shops across the street. Joan looked older than she had 3 days ago, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. I've been married to Frank for 42 years, she started. Raised 3 boys, Derek being the youngest. I thought I was a good judge of character. She shook her head. Your sister fooled me completely. Vanessa's had a lifetime of practice. That doesn't excuse it. Or excuse me. Joan turned to face me directly. She showed us photographs of this place, told us stories about summers spent here as children, the way she talked about it, about your family. I believed her. We thought we were doing a favor keeping an eye on the place while you were away. What did she tell you about me? Joan winced. She said you were difficult, career-obsessed. Bet you'd inherited money from a grandmother and bought this place out of spite to have something she couldn't access. She made you sound cold. The lies were so familiar they barely stung anymore. And now I've seen the truth. The way you handled everything, firm but fair. You could have called the police immediately, could have pressed charges. You gave us a way out. She paused. Derek told me about your conversation with him. You were kind to him even though he should have done his due diligence. He was lied to. We all were. But that's on us for not verifying. Joan pulled out her phone. I took photos of how we left the place. I wanted proof that we cleaned properly, that we didn't steal anything. Derek was paranoid that your sister might have taken something and you'd blame us. She scrolled through images of my clean kitchen, the stripped beds, the swept floors. In one photo, Derek was carefully patching the holes in the wall, his face somber. He tried, Joan said quietly. We all did. It doesn't fix what happened, but I wanted you to know. Thank you for telling me. I meant it. Joan had driven down here, sought me out, taken responsibility. It was more than Vanessa had ever done. One more thing, Joan hesitated. Derek's filing for divorce. He called a lawyer Friday morning. This wasn't the first time Vanessa's lied, apparently. Just the first time he couldn't ignore it. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt sad for Derek's kids, for the mess they'd have to navigate, for the fallout that would ripple through everyone's lives. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be. My son married a woman who calls her sister a parasite. That tells me everything I need to know about her character." Joan stood shouldering her purse. "I hope you enjoy your house, Claire. You've earned it." I watched her walk to her car. This woman who had been caught in Vanessa's web and had the grace to apologize. It reminded me that not everyone who hurts you means to. Some people are just collateral damage in someone else's dysfunction. Back at the lodge, I continued my restoration work. I found small things they damaged or misplaced. A chipped mug, a book with a bent spine, my favorite throat blanket stained with what looked like hot chocolate. None of it was irreplaceable, but each discovery reinforced how little respect Vanessa had for my things. In the bathroom, I found one of her prescription bottles in the medicine cabinet. Anxiety medication. I felt a pang of something. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. Vanessa had always been anxious, always convinced the world was against her. In her mind, maybe she really did believe she deserved this place, that I'd somehow stolen opportunities that should have been hers. But mental health struggles didn't excuse behavior. They explained it maybe, but they didn't make it okay. I'd been to therapy for my own issues, learning to set boundaries, to recognize manipulation, to trust my own perceptions after years of gaslighting. I'd done the work. Vanessa needed to do hers. I threw the pill bottle in the trash, then fished it back out. I'd mail it to her. Despite everything, I didn't want her to go without medication she might need. I set it aside with a mental note to send it to our parents' house where she was staying, along with anything else of hers I found. That evening, I video called my best friend Madison. She'd been texting worried messages since I'd sent her a brief summary of what had happened. "Please tell me you're okay," she said immediately. Her face filled the screen, concern evident in her eyes. "I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." I walked her through everything. The confrontation, the cleanup, the conversation with Joan. Madison listened without interrupting, though her expressions ranged from shocked to furious to proud. "You're my hero," she said when I finished. "Seriously, do you know how many people would have just caved? Let her stay avoided the conflict. Old me would have old you got stepped on. Knew you was a badass who knows her worth." Madison grinned. "I'm so proud of you." I could cry. In fact, I might be crying. Don't make me cry too. I've done enough of that this weekend. Good tears though, right? Yeah, good tears. I looked around at my reclaimed space. It feels different now, like I've actually earned it twice. Once by buying it, once by fighting for it. You shouldn't have had to fight for your own property. No, but I'm glad I did. We talked for another hour, Madison filling me in on work gossip and her latest dating disaster. The normalcy of it grounded me, reminded me that life continued beyond family drama. After we hung up, I made dinner. Pasta with that expensive olive oil. I'd replaced a salad with vegetables from the Pine Creek Farmers Market. A glass of wine from a bottle I'd been saving. I ate slowly, savoring each bite, grateful for the silence. My phone buzzed with an email. Derek sending a bank statement showing the $3,000 transfer along with a longer message. Claire. I've attached the payment confirmation. I've also been documenting everything for my lawyer. I hope you don't mind that I'm using our text exchange and your accounting as evidence of Vanessa's deception. My attorney says it demonstrates a pattern of dishonesty. I never wanted to believe she was capable of something like this. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better as family. You deserve better from all of us. Derek. I replied simply, "Thank you for taking responsibility. I hope you and the kids are okay." His response came quickly. "We will be. It'll take time, but we will be. You taught me something important this weekend, that being family doesn't mean accepting unacceptable behavior. I'm going to teach my kids the same lesson." I reclaimed my space inch by inch. Derek sent the money on day 6 via Venmo with a note again. "I'm so sorry. If it matters, we're in counseling." It did matter a little. Derek wasn't a bad guy. He just made the mistake of believing his wife without question. I hope they worked it out, or at least that he learned to verify things. Vanessa never apologized. No surprise there. But 2 weeks later, Mom called to tell me that Vanessa had cried for an hour during their talk and admitted she was jealous of me. That she'd always felt like the family disappointment compared to her accomplished younger sister. That doesn't excuse what she did, Mom said firmly. But I wanted you to know. She's agreed to therapy too, individual therapy. I appreciated the update, but I wasn't holding my breath for a transformation. Some people change, others just get better at hiding their true nature. 3 months later, I was back at the lodge for Thanksgiving weekend, this time with Madison and a few friends from work. We cooked an elaborate dinner, played board games by the fire, and hiked to the ridge to watch the sunrise over snow-dusted peaks. I still can't believe your sister tried to steal your house, Madison said as we stood on the overlook, our breath fogging in the cold air. She didn't try to steal it, she tried to pretend it was already partly hers. Classic Vanessa rewrite reality until everyone believes her version. Did she ever apologize? Nope. I sipped my coffee from a thermos, but she's afraid of me now, which is almost better. Madison laughed as she should be. You went full scorched earth. I went reasonable adult to enforce normal boundaries, but I smiled as I said it. The truth was, I had gone a little scorched earth. After the initial confrontation, I compiled every receipt, every utility bill, every photo of the damage, and put together a detailed accounting. I'd send it to Derek with a payment demand copied to his parents' email address that I'd gotten from a return receipt on a thank you card they'd left. I'd made sure everyone knew exactly what had happened. Not out of spite, though. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some satisfaction in it, but because Vanessa's lies only worked when she controlled the narrative. I'd also, in a moment of petty triumph, I wasn't entirely proud of posted a photo on social media of me at the lodge with a caption, "Home Sweet Home," and tagged the location. Several family members had commented asking about the family property Vanessa had mentioned. I'd simply replied, "Just my personal vacation home, bought it in 2019, let the truth speak for itself." Christmas came and went. The family gathering was awkward. Vanessa barely spoke to me, which was fine. Her kids didn't understand why they couldn't go to Aunt Claire's cabin anymore. Derek made polite conversation and gave me an apologetic look whenever Vanessa left the room. But something had shifted in the family dynamic. When Vanessa started to complain about money troubles at dinner, Dad gently suggested she and Derek look into financial counseling. When she tried to paint herself as a victim of her circumstances, Mom redirected the conversation. They were holding her accountable finally. Not perfectly, not all the time, but enough that Vanessa's usual manipulations didn't land the same way. As for me, I took the VP position. The promotion came with a significant raise and a team of my own. I also started therapy not because of Vanessa, but because the whole situation had made me realize I'd spent years managing other people's emotions at the expense of my own. I learned that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, that protecting my peace wasn't selfish, that I didn't owe anyone access to my life just because we shared DNA. The lodge remained my sanctuary. I had the security system installed, changed all the locks, and kept the only set of keys. When well-meaning relatives asked why I didn't share it more, I smiled and said, "It's my personal retreat, but I'd be happy to recommend some great airs in the area." The cameras went in first, discreet but comprehensive coverage of all entry points. The technician, a guy named Marcus who'd done security for half the properties in Summit County, whistled when I told him why I needed them. "Family's the worst," he said, mounting a camera above the front door. "My cousin stole my identity once. Bought a jet ski in my name. Did you press charges?" "Damn right I did. He's still paying me back." Marcus tested the camera angle. "You want these set to alert you for any motion, or just when someone approaches the door? Any motion within 50 feet of the house, smart lady." The system linked to my phone, sending real-time alerts and storing footage in the cloud. I tested it obsessively that first week, checking the feed at random times. Mostly I saw deer, occasionally an elk, once a black bear that sniffed around the garbage shed before wandering off. But I slept better, knowing I'd be alerted if anyone tried to access the property again. The locksmith came 2 days later, a woman named Patricia, who had been changing locks in the mountains for 30 years. She took one look at my old deadbolts and shook her head. "These are builder grade. Anyone with basic lock-picking skills could get through them in under a minute. What would you recommend? High-security deadbolt smart locks with individual access codes you can change remotely, and reinforced strike plates." She pulled out her tablet to show me options. "You want to keep people out? This is how you do it." I went with her premium package. By the time Patricia finished, my lodge had better security than some banks. She programmed the smart locks with codes and Lei knew set up the system so I could grant temporary access remotely if needed, and added security film to the ground floor windows that would make them nearly impossible to break quietly. Overkill, I asked as she packed up her tools. Honey, I've been doing this long enough to know that the people who think security is overkill are the ones who end up calling me after a break-in crying. She handed me her card. You're being smart. If someone wants in bad enough, they'll find a way, but you've just made it way more trouble than it's worth. The investment was significant, close to $5,000 between the cameras and locks, but every dollar felt worth it. This wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. This was about protecting something I'd built, claiming sovereignty over my own space. I spent the rest of that week working remotely from the lodge, taking conference calls from my deck, writing code while watching snow clouds gather over the peaks. My boss Sarah called to check in, having noticed I'd extended my time off. Everything okay? You never take this much time away. Family situation. It's handled now. Want to talk about it? I gave her the abbreviated version. Sarah listened quietly, then swore with impressive creativity. Your sister sounds like a piece of work. That's putting it mildly. Well, if you need anything, documentation for HR if she tries to contact you at work, a reference letter for a restraining order, whatever, you let me know. Sarah's voice softened. And Claire, I'm glad you stood up for yourself. I've seen you minimize your own needs for years. It's good to see you finally putting yourself first. The observation caught me off guard. You noticed that everyone did. You're the person who always volunteers for the worst shifts, who takes on extra work when someone else drops the ball, who never complains even when you should. She paused. It made you an incredible employee, but it also made me worry about you. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a while. How many people had watched me diminish myself? How many had noticed the pattern I thought I was hiding? That night, I started a journal, not a diary. I tried those before and always felt too self-conscious, but a record of boundaries set and maintained. Each entry was simple. October 22nd, told Sarah I needed a week off. She approved without making me justify it. October 23rd, declined Mom's request to call Vanessa and talk things out. Explained that Vanessa needs to apologize first. October 24th, didn't respond to Vanessa's email claiming I'd ruined her life. Forwarded it to my therapist for our next session. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. A week after the confrontation, a package arrived at my Denver apartment. My neighbor texted me a photo. It was from a law firm. I had it forwarded to the lodge. Overnight shipping anxiety spiking. Had Vanessa sued me? Was this about the money Derek had paid? The envelope contained a letter from Derek's attorney, but not what I'd feared. It was a notarized statement confirming the payment, releasing me from any further claims related to the property use, and unexpectedly, a formal apology letter from Derek that had been witnessed by his lawyer. The apology was thorough, taking full responsibility for his failure to verify Vanessa's claims. He outlined the lies she told, the documentation he'd since discovered she'd forged, including a fake email supposedly from me giving permission, and the steps he was taking to ensure his children understood the importance of honesty and respecting others' property. The final paragraph gutted me. My children ask why they can't visit on Claire's cabin anymore. I told them the truth, that their mother lied and that lies have consequences. They're angry with me for leaving, angry with their mother for lying, and confused about everything. But I'd rather they learn this lesson now than grow up thinking it's acceptable to treat people the way Vanessa treated you. I'm sorry we all failed you. You deserve family who protected you, not family who enabled your sister's worst impulses. I called my therapist and scheduled an emergency session. Dr. Rivera had been working with me for 2 years on family dynamics and codependency patterns. It sounds like Derek is taking real accountability, she said after I read her the letter. It feels weird. Like this is what it's supposed to look like. An actual apology. That's because you're used to non-apologies. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry, but you also did X. Real apologies name the harm, take responsibility, and outline changed behavior. Derek did all three. What do I do with it? What do you want to do? I thought about it. I want to acknowledge it. Tell him I appreciate it, but I don't want to absolve him completely or open the door to a close relationship. Those are all possible in one response. Dr. Rivera helped me craft a reply that was gracious but boundaried. I sent it that afternoon, and Derek responded with a simple, "Thank you for receiving it. That's all I was hoping for." Meanwhile, Vanessa had gone silent. No calls, no texts, no social media posts. The quiet felt ominous, like the stillness before a storm. Mom called with updates. Vanessa had moved into their guest room temporarily with the 3 kids. She'd been fired from her part-time job at the boutique for being unreliable, which probably meant she'd called in sick too many times or caused drama with coworkers. Derek had filed for divorce and was seeking primary custody based on Vanessa's pattern of deception. She's spiraling. Mom said, "I'm worried about her." That's fair. Being worried and being enabling are different things. "I know your father and I aren't giving her money anymore. We're paying directly for things the kids need. Clothes, school supplies, their therapy, but we're not funding her lifestyle or bailing her out." How is she handling that? Badly. She called me a traitor yesterday. Mom's voice cracked slightly. She says the whole family has turned on her because of you. Mom, you know that's not— I know. I do know Claire, but she's still my daughter, and watching her self-destruct is hard. She's an adult making choices. You can love her and still hold her accountable. When did you get so wise? Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy. We talked for another half hour, Mom processing her guilt over how she'd enabled Vanessa for years. It was painful to hear, but necessary. Change hurt. Growth hurt, but staying in dysfunction hurt more. When well-meaning relatives asked why I didn't share it more, I smiled and said, "It's my personal retreat, but I'd be happy to recommend some great Airbnbs in the area." A year after the confrontation, Derek and Vanessa separated. Mom broke the news gently, as if I'd be devastated. I felt the twinge of sadness for the kids, but relief that Derek was extracting himself from the chaos. Vanessa moved back in with our parents temporarily. I sent them a carefully worded text offering to help cover therapy costs for the kids. Money sent directly to the therapist. I wouldn't give Vanessa cash, but I'd support my nieces and nephews. Sometimes at the lodge late at night when the fire burns low and the only sound is wind through the pines. I think about that moment when I walked through my own front door to find my life and made it. The shock of it, the audacity, but mostly I think about what I said. Go ahead if you can. 4 words that changed everything. 4 words that meant I was done backing down, done sacrificing, done letting someone else's dysfunction dictate my life. The lodge is quiet tonight. Snow is falling outside, fat flakes that catch the porch light. I have a cup of tea, a good book, and absolutely no one's drama but my own to worry about. Vanessa was right about one thing. I do come up here to refresh, to remember who I am when I'm not managing everyone else's emotions, to reconnect with a woman who worked her ass off, saved her money, and built something beautiful. She just never understood that she wasn't entitled to any of it. My phone buzzes. A text from Madison, still alive up there. Haven't posted in 24 hours and your coworkers are worried you've been eaten by a bear. I snap a photo of my tea in the snow-covered window and send it back. The only thing eating me is this mystery novel. It's delicious. Her response is immediate. Terrible pun. Also, I'm jealous. Save some peace and quiet for me next month. Already blocked off the dates I reply, because here's what I learned. The people who respect your boundaries are the ones who deserve access to your life. Everyone else can get a polite redirect and a recommendation for a good Airbnb. I finish my tea, add another log to the fire, and settle deeper into my chair. Tomorrow, I'll hike to the frozen waterfall. Tonight, I'll read and rest and exist in the space I created for myself. And if my sister ever asks to visit, well, I'll consider it maybe in a decade or 2 after she's done the work, to become the kind of person who asks instead of takes, who respects instead of exploits. But probably not. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Some doors are better left locked. Some properties are meant to have only one name on the deed, mine.